All right, so yesterday we started in verse 7 of Second John, and we kind of got into verse 8 a little bit, but we're going to do 8 and 9 and 10, and we'll see how far we get into it. We may not get that far, because even though this is a short book, short letter, it's packed with all sorts of stuff. So yesterday we kind of ended cautioning ourselves to watch out for becoming deceived, and then in turn being a deceiver, because it's really easy for that to happen. Once you buy into something, then you become a salesperson for it, whether you recognize it or not. So John in verse 8 says, watch out that you don't lose what we've worked for, but that you may be rewarded fully. And then he says in verse 9, anyone who runs ahead and does not continue in the teaching of Christ does not have God. But whoever continues in the teaching has both the Father and the Son. So we're going to do verse 9, and then we're going to go back to verse 8 a little bit, because I think that there's a little bit of something here that gives us some advice to let us know and help us understand that we're walking in truth. And in verse 9, as soon as he says, anyone who runs ahead, this is an important statement here. I'm a person that kind of likes to jump into things with both feet. Ready, shoot, aim sometimes. And I've really worked hard over the years to temper my responses and to really try to think a little bit more. Sometimes it still gets the better of me, especially if I'm emotional about something. But for the most part, we want to try to not jump ahead. We want to make sure that we have all of the information before we actually run down. Imagine if you're playing one of those games like, I'm going to go a little old school here, and that supermarket run game where you'd go and you'd have to buy items and come back. Well, what if you, before they even gave the instructions on what item that you needed, you left? Well, what would you have to do? You'd have to come back and go, wait, what was that item again? It just seems silly to do that, but a lot of times we get a little bit of knowledge about Scripture and we will run with it, and we will maybe not have the full picture of what it is. Or, and really honestly, this happens a lot for people that don't have a solid foundation in Jesus, because they will say a verse like, judge ye not lest ye be judged, which it's really funny they learned in the King James, but and they don't understand the context of what that says, and they look at the don't accuse someone else of a speck until you get the plank out of your own eye, and they don't fully understand what that means. They use it to further their agenda, and the problem with that is that when you do that, you are not in the teaching of Christ, and as a result of that, you don't even know who God is. And that's a horrible, awful thing. I mean, Jesus references this when he has people that he talks about the end times, and there's people that stand before the throne. And they're like, Father, Father, let us in, let us in. And Jesus says, I don't know you. And but we did all these things in your name. Yeah, but where were you in really love? Did you really understand what I was teaching you, or were you just kind of writing your own agenda? And that's what John's talking about here. But whoever continues in teaching has both the Father and the Son, because, as Jesus says, if you know me, you know my Father. That's the thing we have to remember, is that Jesus is our source of truth. Okay, and that's why we don't want to lose what we've worked for, because we don't want to lose sight of who we pursue. We don't want to end up chasing something else, or going down a wrong trail, or going down a wrong path. We don't want to end up going in circles because we've lost who it is that we're supposed to be chasing and pursuing. If you've ever played Follow the leader takes you wherever they want to go. That's what we're supposed to be doing as followers of Christ. We want to continue so that we make sure that we have both the Father and the Son as a result of following the Son's teachings. And John goes on in verse 10 to say, if anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, don't take them into your house or welcome them. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not supposed to associate with people. What it means, though, is you don't let them have authority over you. You don't let them be influencers in your life. You stay focused on the truth. You don't look at those false deceivers and those antichrists. Instead, you focus on the Father through the Son, and that is solely who your focus is. And that's what he said. The new command we've heard is that we love one another, and this is love, that we walk in obedience to his commands, back in verse 6 and 5. This is what we're supposed to be doing, is walking in obedience. This is how we identify the truth, and this is how we follow the truth. And then verse 11, John says, if anyone who welcomes them shares in their wicked ways. So basically, when you bring them in, when you allow them into your home to have authority, you allow yourself to become deceived and a deceiver. So we have to, according to what we've read so far, we have to be able to identify the truth. We have to be able to and follow the truth so that we can then be the truth. All right, tomorrow we're going to wrap up 2 John.